Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
You have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
First, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to a number of people. To those who have all been a part of making me who I am. To those of you out there and in Minnesota and Illinois who have been a part of my success, I say thank you. To my teammates at Central Catholic High School, the University of Notre Dame, the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, I say thank you. To the people of Canton, to the people around this country who have supported me over the years, I say thank you. But I would like to say a special thank you to my father, Howard, to my sister, Marvel, and my sister, Twyla, my wife, Diane, my daughters, Nina, Georgiana, Campson, my son, Justin, and to my mother, who never had a chance to see me play. And to all my other fans and friends and family who are here. On this occasion, I ask myself, what contribution can I still make that would truly be worthy of the outpouring of warmth and good feelings as I have received here today? And the answer for me is clear: to help give other children the chance to achieve their dreams.
And with that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Roosevelt High School, Minneapolis, Minnesota, for our latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Network, today featuring the one and only Mr. Alan Page. A little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame before we get started. It is our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And it's the values of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty that we believe in that not only made Mr. Page a Hall of Famer, got him that gold jacket, it made him a great person off the field. And if you don't know the background about this gentleman sitting right here beside me, he's done a lot of great things off the football field as well. And I'm sure we'll dive into that today. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and I'll be kind of moderating the program today. So I'm excited to kind of see where these questions go and all the things that we hear from Mr. Page throughout our 1 hour discussion here. Before we do get started, I have some thank yous I'd like to pass out first and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks. Without their support, this program cannot take place. We are very fortunate to do this program literally all over the country. And without the support from Extreme Networks, we wouldn't be able to do that and give students the opportunity to hear from our Hall of Famers. So to our great partners at Extreme Networks, thank you so much. To all of our educators, teachers, administrators that allowed us to be a part of your learning experience today, thank you. We don't take it lightly that you allowed us to be a part of your students' learning experience. So we appreciate that. And then lastly, I have to thank our students. Without the students, this program doesn't take place. If you've seen this program before, I joke that nobody wants to hear me talk for the next hour. We want to hear all the questions that our students have today. We've got some awesome schools, not only right here in Minnesota, but all over the country who are going to be asking some questions throughout the program today. And no matter where you're at, whether you're the student sitting in front of us here at Roosevelt, or you're watching us on YouTube, or you're connected in on Zoom, if you have anything that you post out on your social media platforms today, make sure to tag the Pro Football Hall of Fame at Pro Football HOF, tag the Vikings, use the hashtag HOF values, and tag our great partners at Extreme Networks. And your post just might be reshared on all of our platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, I know it's a little bit different. We're usually on Facebook. We made the switch to YouTube Live here. If you have a question, throw it in the chats there. We've got some awesome people out there watching that, and your question just might be put in as part of the program. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Hall of Famer Alan Page. Alan, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We're super excited to have you as part of the program today. For us, it's Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's nice because you're literally right from our backyard in Canton, Ohio. So
right.
It's a shame we have to come all the way to Minnesota to talk, even though we're all from the same location.
Well, the last time not the last time, but I think this is the second time I've been a part of this program, and the first time I was actually in Canton. So
awesome, very cool. Well, we are super excited to have you as part of the program today. And perks of being the host of this program is I usually get to ask the first question. So we mentioned those values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. Out of all of those values, is there one that stands out to you more, that's more important than the others? Are they like a team where everything kind of works together?
they all work together, but fundamentally, being honest, that is critical. That is one that is foundational, if you will. The fact is that if we can't be honest, that is to say, if we can't be truthful, we can't be trusted. And without trust, there's nothing. The one thing that holds people together is the ability to trust one another. If you can't, if I can't trust what one says or what somebody does, then as I say, there's nothing that binds us.
And it's cool because that we can look at it at a personal level. We can look at that in our house, in our school, in our workforce, on the football field, in the courtroom, and the same concept applies to all of that.
Everywhere, across the board. Without trust, we have nothing.
Absolutely. And looking back on your career on the football field, how did you take those values you learned from the game, whether when you were 6'7" playing the game growing up, or when you got and were part of the Purple People Eaters in Minnesota? How did those values have an impact on your life on the football field? And then how did that transition to life after football? And then we'll kind of get into some of the cool things, very, very cool things you did after your playing career.
Well, first of all, I wasn't on a football field at 6 and 7. I came to it a little later. I was a 14-year-old high school freshman when I started playing. And the values that come from the game, hard work, honesty, commitment, the willingness to work with other people, to be able to focus on the task at hand. Those things, again, work across the board, whether you're on a football field, in a courtroom, in a classroom. Being able to focus, being able to trust, being able to commit to doing that which you set out to do. All of those things are what allows for success, however you define or measure success. I tend to measure success by the journey, not by the destination. But even if you're inclined to measure it by reaching the destination, all of those things come into play.
Absolutely. So we all know the great success you had on the football field. Obviously, you have a bronze bust in Canton. You have that gold jacket on right now. But I don't know. There would be probably a lot of people that would say a lot of your success and what you're most known for, especially in this area, came after your career and being on the Supreme Court and a Supreme Court justice. So obviously, kind of a different transition from a football player to Supreme Court justice. But
not all that different. Physically, yes, but
I would hope so.
But beyond that, hard work, focus, being able to think on your feet, being able to respond, being able to understand what's going on around you and reacting accordingly. All of those things are they work everywhere, as I say, and the skills that I applied as a football player are the same skills that I applied in my legal career. They're the same skills I use every day in everything that I do.
I can't think of a better example. We always talk about how important these values are and how they can make you a great employee, a great student. Mr. Page here, went from the top of his career in football to the top of his career in the legal system. So, he's seen the highest peak of both of those worlds, and be able to using those values truly, showcases that how important that they are. So how, you mentioned a little bit, but how did you take those values you use and then applied them to your life in the courtroom? And were there any examples where you thought of, man, I'm glad I played the game because it helped me in this way?
I've never thought about it in those kind of terms. I just apply them. I mean, it's not something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, other than in retrospect. Once you develop those characteristics, you can apply them not automatically, but they're part of who you are. Being honest is, at the end of the day, not something that you should have to work to do. Absolutely. It should be part of your makeup. Understanding that you have committed to somebody else, not something you do in a calculated way. It becomes a part of who you are. Now, maybe there are times early on when you're sort of figuring all this out, because none of us come to this with all the answers up front or all the insight up front. But at some point, they become who you are, and you don't spend a lot of time calculating.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's enough for me. We're going to start with our students right here at Roosevelt High School. So I know you guys kind of asked some questions earlier, but if you didn't get the opportunity to ask, now's the time. Does anybody have a question here in the room for Mr. Page? Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Is there a specific moment or event that caused you to want to pursue a career in law after you moved here?
So a specific moment, so just so everybody can hear, a specific moment or event that in your life where you went, yes, I want to be working legal. I want to work in law.
My interest in the law came before I became a football player. I started thinking about the law back when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. At that point where we ask young children what they want to do when they grow up. When I would get asked that question, I said I would want to be a lawyer. Not that I knew any lawyers, not that I had any lawyers in my family, but growing up in Canton, for an African-American kid like me, if things went well in the 1950s, 60s, I might do well by getting a job in a steel mill. Nothing wrong with jobs in steel mills, but I had an uncle who spent 40 plus years working in steel mills. And from his experience, I concluded, my young mind concluded, that the work was dirty, it was dangerous, and it was repetitious. And I'd heard stories about lawyers. The stories I heard, lawyers make lots of money, don't work too hard, drive big fancy cars. So you start, you balance those two, dirty, dangerous, and repetitious versus big fancy cars. Lots of money and not working too hard. Big fancy cars wins out every time. I mean, it just happens. I was also 8 years old when the United States Supreme Court decided Brown versus the Board of Education. And that court decision gave me the sense, even though I didn't understand it fully, I can still remember reading about it in the Canton Repository. It gave me the impression that if state-sponsored segregation could be ended, that the law was powerful and it had the ability to ensure fairness and to help us move towards justice. And even my 8-year-old mind understood that. Over time, I developed the sense that the law was about solving problems and helping people. Something that I felt strongly that I wanted to do. By the time I got to high school, started playing football, had some success there, but never lost the interest in the law. And indeed, graduated when first year after I graduated from Notre Dame, actually my second year of professional football, I enrolled in law school. Dropped out shortly thereafter because I wasn't committed. I wasn't focused on that particular task at that time. But then went back in 1975 after before the start of my 9th year with the Vikings, and graduated in 1978. And so started practicing law before my football career ended.
So when your students out there are complaining about having all this homework and all these tests to study for because you have to do something else outside, you were in front of somebody who was a professional football player and went to law school on top of that.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, we had the question about how do you fit all that in? And it's just a matter of time management and compartmentalizing and giving your full self to everything you're doing at the time you're doing it. So that when I was with my family, that's what I was doing. When I was on the football field, that's what I was doing. When I was in the classroom, I was in the classroom. And it's surprising what we can do when we are committed and wanting to do it.
Absolutely. At the beginning, I mentioned part of our mission is to honor the greats of the game like yourself. But what we do in Canton, Ohio, at our core, we're a museum. So we're there to preserve the history of the game of football from when it started in the late 1800s all the way up to the stars of today. So we thought, what better way to showcase that than we go straight back to Canton, Ohio, live to the Hall of Fame. So what we're going to do, we're going to head to our archives here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame to great team member of ours, Mr. John Kendall. And John's in his archives in his office with some stuff. He's going to talk a little bit about what the Hall of Fame does, and I think he's got a question for you. So John, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Alan, appreciate all you do for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the game itself, and our community here and communities across the country. Like Jake said, my name is John Kendall. I am Vice President of Museum and Archives here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and another Canton Crusader alum here as well, class of 1999. So appreciate all you did for our alma mater, Alan. But I am standing in the Ralph Wilson Jr. Pro Football Research and Preservation Center, and this is really the foundation of what we have in the museum. This is our archive area. We house over 40 million pages of documents, 6 million photographic images, and close to 30,000 artifacts related not just to the history of the game, but every player, coach, and contributor who built the game to what it is today, with a special focus on those 362 Pro Football Hall of Famers. And so I'm surrounded by a lot of documents. I'm sure with your law degree, Alan, that you've been in a lot of archives throughout the years and doing a lot of research. And that's what we do at our core here. We are a research and preservation facility, and then we promote those great stories throughout the entire museum. So we have documents from the 1920s here, the Red Grange tour of the Dutch Sterneman collection. We've got over 55,000 game programs in our collection, some as old as Thanksgiving Day, 1880, Princeton versus Yale. We've got coaching notebooks. These are Coach Don Shula's notebooks from the 1970s. We've got play sheets over here from Coach Paul Brown from 1954, somebody that you're familiar with playing against, Vince Lombardi. These are his overhead Joes. We've also got draft cards. We've since 1997 received the draft card of every player drafted into the National Football League. So what better way to start a player's personal archive than with their draft card, where it all starts. But you've been gracious enough, Alan, to donate a few different items to the Pro Football Hall of Fame that we can preserve and tell your story. We've got a photo up there that I had in the collection that I was able to pull out today. We've got your jersey here. Here in Canton, Ohio, you have a street named after you. So Allen Page Drive. We've got one of the street signs from there. But your jersey here, this is from the Vikings 1978 season. And I want to ask you a little bit about that season, because I'm sure it was there was adversity in that season. And you played 6 games in Minnesota, and they put you on waivers, and then you signed with the Chicago Bears, a division rival, and you ended the season with 11 and a half sacks. And I think 50 or over 50 tackles as a defensive lineman with the Chicago Bears. And could you just tell the group a little bit about that adversity and making that transition, and really putting your best foot forward when you left the Vikings and went to the Chicago Bears?
Well, it was a very tough year. It was the year I graduated from law school. And because I took the bar exam in late July, early August, I was late getting to training camp. We had new defensive line coaches, and they developed this new scheme, defensive scheme. And while some would say I was a very good defensive tackle, I was really kind of a one-trick pony. I did what I could do very well. They asked me to do something else, I couldn't do that so well. And this new scheme didn't fit me. And I didn't fit it. And it was clear after the first 6 games, I hadn't been close to a sack. And I got released. I think the week before, I had found out that I had failed the bar exam. And so my current employment was gone, and my future employment was in jeopardy. It was a very difficult time for my family. Fortunately, 2 days after I got released, I got picked up by the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, were being coached. Actually, the general manager was formerly with the Vikings. Jim Finks, another Hall of Fame member, and their new coaching staff had been with the Vikings the year before. And mind you, the year before, I think I had something like 109 tackles. The start of those first 6 games, I don't know that I had 5, much less 109, which is pretty amazing when you think about it for a defensive lineman. Eventually, well, I got, as I say, 2 days later, I got picked up by the Bears, and that was on a Wednesday, I believe, no, a Thursday. The Bears played Denver on a Monday night, and it took me all of about a quarter and a half to get my first sack. And so I don't know whether it was me or the Vikings or what it was, but things started looking up. And at the end of the day, I can remember when I first got to Chicago, I was walking down Michigan Avenue, and Chicago bus driver pulled over to the curb, opened the door, and said, "Welcome." And things started to look up from there. I got a warm reception. The football thing sort of worked out there pretty well. And all in all, from that very difficult time, things I was going to say improved, but that doesn't capture it. It was a great experience. It was a great experience for me. It was a great experience for my family. And it really gave new life to my football career.
Incredible. I appreciate you sharing that. Like I said, I've read about it. I knew that there was some struggle there, but to persevere and come out better on the other end shows the type of character that you have. And you mentioned Jim Finks, and I did read a quote where he said that Alan Page is the most honest person that I've ever met. And when he says he's going to do something, he does it. If Alan says that he's going to run a marathon, he will run a marathon. And Alan told me that he had 3 years left that he wanted to play. And I knew that those would be the 3 best years that he would give us. So appreciate all that you do. And thanks again.
Well, you're welcome. And sometime in the future, I don't know that we've got time for it today, but I've got a great Jim Finks story for you.
I'm sure John would love to hear that. We love to capture all the great history that this game, has given to us, and, paved the way for those who are playing it today. So, we want to make sure we get some time for all of our other schools to ask questions here. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it out to our first school. It's going to be Centerburg High School from Centerburg, Ohio. So those folks there at Centerburg, go ahead and have the student step up to the microphone. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Student, state your name, the grade that you're in, and then go ahead and ask your question for Mr. Page. Okay. All right, we can hear him.
All right, quick question. So, in your opinion, what was more difficult, your pursuit to greatness in the NFL or your pursuit of justice in the court? When given the cases that you have?
I don't know that I would say that one or the other was more difficult. Mm-hmm. Certainly the pursuit of justice was more important. Mm-hmm. I mean, the reality is that as much as we love football, as much as I love playing football, it's just a game. Mm-hmm. And its enduring value was in doing it. The enduring value of what I did on the court was something that affected real people with real problems. And that will last into eternity, presumably. I mean, one of the things that always struck me when I was on the court was you go back and look at cases from the past to make decisions toward the present and the future. And to understand that opinions that I wrote while I was on the court will be used into the future. People will be basing their decisions on that. That's pretty humbling. That you have a role in ensuring justice, not only for the moment, but for as long as our legal system lasts.
Absolutely. And you touch on something very unique there because, fellow Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson watched a video after he received the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And he talked about, the on the field success is great. The touchdowns, the championships, for you, the national championships, the MVPs, going to all those Super Bowls. But at the end of the day, those results on the field will kind of fizzle out. But it's that impact off the field, the kids you get to meet, the picture you take. For you, all the court cases you just talked about, that's the impact that's going to last a very long time.
Well, that impact, I've also had the good fortune to, along with my wife, Diane, start an education foundation. And we've impacted some 8,000 plus young men and women across the state of Minnesota over the last 35 years. We've impacted them, and we have a requirement that our grant recipients work with young children as tutors, mentors, and role models in the area of education. They have impacted people. Each one of you here, whether you're physically here at Roosevelt High School or one of the other high schools across the country or someplace else, each one of us has the ability and the power to have that impact. Some will have more impact than others, but that doesn't matter. Each one of us has the ability to change the future in ways that make the future better for all of us. And that's something that, while all of us have the power to do it, it's something that empowers me and can empower you to do more.
Absolutely. Man, at the end of these programs, we usually take some clips and put them out on social media. And I'm like, we're just going to send this whole thing out because I think everybody needs to hear all the great words of wisdom here today. So I want to thank you, Senator Berg, for that question. It was a great question. We're going to move on to another school now. We're going to go down to Georgia, to Baldwin Success Academy for our next question. So our students there, Baldwin, go ahead and walk your way up to the camera and the mic. I'll go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name, and then go ahead and ask your question whenever you're ready.
Got it. All right. Good evening. I'm Gage with Baldwin Success. And our question for you today is, how do you feel the leadership roles on the football field and in the business world are similar?
How do I feel the leadership roles in the football field and the business world are similar? I'm not sure I know how to answer that. I've never focused on leaders. I focus on the qualities that people present. And from a personal standpoint, I've never thought of myself as a leader. I'm not out there trying to lead anybody. If people see what I do and think that's a good example and want to follow it, I think that's great. But I can't, as a person, I'm not one of those people who leads for the sake of leading. But as I say, if my example is a good one, then use it. And I don't know from one side of, I don't think it matters. I think leaders are people who are leaders, are real leaders who by their actions inspire others to act. I don't know that there's one characteristic or one form for that. I don't know that that it matters whether that's taking place on a football field or on in a office or in a school or anywhere. I think the qualities that inspire me to want to follow somebody are the same no matter where they're taking place.
For sure. I think all the stuff we talked about at the beginning too, how those values impact, your football career, your life in the courtroom, and that can apply, like we said, literally anywhere. And it's those leadership. If you are a leader and you do see yourself as a leader, you can do that on your sports team. We have a lot of leaders in this room right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can I just digress a little bit for a minute?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I think we all sort of fail at, and I'm not perfect at it myself. We all want to win, whether we're on the athletic field or in the courtroom or in the office. We all want to win. And I've come to the conclusion that if our focus becomes solely on winning, we're really setting ourselves up to lose. I think the most important thing we can do is seek excellence. Be as good as we can be so that we reach our highest potential. My experience on the football field, and I've seen it in the courtroom, when all you want to do is win, there is this tendency to want to play to the level, or not want to, but actually play to the level of the competition. So if you're playing somebody that's not you perceive to be not very good, you end up playing at their level or maybe slightly better. That's just the prescription for mediocrity. If you go out, every time you go out, and I'll just use the football as the example. If you go out and perform at your highest possible level, then it doesn't matter who you're playing, what they're doing. Is if you perform at your highest level, I think you will be successful, but I also think you increase your opportunity to win. But I mean, I can remember playing in games in which, we've got to win. Other teams have to lose for us to get into the playoffs. And we're out there looking, some of us are out there looking at the scoreboard to see what other teams are doing. And we're playing somebody that's not all that great. And we're behind because we're playing at the level of the competition because all we want to do is win. And like I say, I think that's a prescription for both mediocrity and a prescription for failure.
That's a very unique take because, as an athlete, competitors, that competitive juice really never leaves you and you always are looking to strive to win. But I think the nice thing about that, as you were talking there, is, everybody's definition of winning is different.
Well, you're competing, but with yourself. The competition is to raise your level. And in context, that gives you a better chance to win. As opposed to, all I want to do is win. And well, I can try this to win. I can try that. Well, if you're at your highest level every time, every play, every series, it's the next play that's important, as opposed to sitting around patting yourself on the back for the last one. I think you increase your likelihood of winning immeasurably, and you fulfill your highest potential.
All right. That's a lot of good stuff here today for sure. We're gonna go to our next school. We're gonna go to St. Philip and St. James back home in Stark County, Canal Fulton, Ohio, for our next question. So whenever you're ready there, go ahead and have a student step up to the microphone, state their name, ask their question for Mr. Page. So whenever you're ready, go ahead. Looks like we have somebody walking up right now. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Avery McMahon, 8th grade. Many of us will go to Central Catholic High School for high school. How did your Catholic education impact your career?
So I think the values, the characteristics, the things that I learned at Central Catholic High School, you know, part of what they instill in you is honesty. Part of what they instill in you is truthfulness. Part of what they instill in you is respect, not only for those around you, but yourself. Those are values that are universally inclined to make one a better person. Treating people the way you would want to be treated. Being fair. All those things are what determines who we are. You know, it's what goes into our character. And character matters. Character matters.
All right, we got one more school we're gonna get to, and then we'll start to look to wrap it up here. We're gonna stay right here in the state of Minnesota. We're gonna go to Lake Crystal Elementary. So we're gonna get some younger kids watching here today for our next question. So everybody there at Lake Crystal, whenever you're ready, go ahead and have a student step up to the microphone and ask their question. Lake Crystal, you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
All right, there we go. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right, here he comes. So we're 5th graders, by the way, just so you're aware too. All right.
What kind of made you want to play football?
What made me want to play football? I started playing football because my brother played. He was ahead of me in school and he played and seemed to enjoy it. And so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. Turns out I had some aptitude for it.
I would say things kind of played out pretty well. Kind of worked out for you at the end of the day.
All right.
We're talking a little bit about there, the question about, Central Catholic, playing, high school football. Obviously for those of you that don't know, Canton, Ohio, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium is the home to the Ohio High School State Championships. If you are a big high school football fan, you kind of know that Northeast Ohio, specifically Stark County, kind of a hotbed for that high school talent, high school football, obviously with the McKinley-Massillon rivalry that's known truly all over the country. So, as we approach, state championships are coming up here. We're in the midst of the playoffs. State championships come in the beginning of December. What was your high school experience like? And for those high school football players out there, how important is them to, not take, not look at their season for granted and truly, if they're seniors, enjoying the ride? Because, I saw a thing online, if you play basketball, you're a basketball player, you can play basketball, pick up basketball. If you are a baseball player, you can play slow pitch softball. If you like to run, you can run. But, once your football career is over, there really is no, pick up full tackle football you can play. So how important is that for you?
Well, I think you participate, I hope, because you enjoy it. And so relish it. And as you know, don't take it for granted. It's it's more or less take advantage of it while you're doing it. And it, like many other things, enjoy the moment, relish in the moment. And because as I also noted earlier, for me, success is in the journey. It's not in the destination. And so people ask me, you know, what's the those things which you loved about football? It was the moment, and every moment, the good ones and the bad ones. And that's what makes it. It's not winning and losing, at least from my vantage point. Now, I say that I was one of the worst losers ever. But at the end of the day, it's relishing in the experience. And because that experience is what goes into your makeup. It's who you become.
I'm sure there are lessons you learned from those tough losses that you used, you know, and whether it was in your high school, college, or professional career that really stuck with you. And you know, that's where, you know, you hear the cliche saying is, you know, you learn more from the losses than you do the wins. And you know,
that's
couldn't be truer.
That's my experience.
We just read an article as we're talking here about football that your granddaughter here in Minnesota is actually on an all-girls flag team, the only one here in this region. So Grandpa Page, how cool is it to see, you know, your granddaughter's out there enjoying the game that you love so much?
I love it. I love it. She started, this is their third year. Their first year, you know, they were 8, 9 years old. They were, you know, the first time on a football field, sort of didn't know what they were doing, kind of intimidated, but they persevered and they got to be pretty good.
Is there's some Page resemblance out there on the field? Do you see a little bit of yourself out there?
She's smarter, faster, better hands than Grandpa.
You know, looking at that as a whole, you know, youth wise, you know, how important is the game for that generation? And, you know, even if they don't, you know, play when they get to high school or middle school, how important is it, you know, just to get out there and be active and be around your friends and all, you know, enjoy that camaraderie?
I think it's critical, whether it's, and quite frankly, whether it's flag football, tackle football, running, basketball, whatever. I think it's critical that young people are both physically active as well as mentally active. It's I mean, the both the physical and the mental health benefits are really important and beneficial. And, you know, there's something about being out in the fresh air, doing whatever the activity is, and getting to know what it's like to, you know, to have a ball come at you and you're trying to catch it or you're trying to knock it down. And those experiences are pretty special, even though they can be both rewarding and frustrating at the same time.
A couple more here. We're about to wrap up, a couple more minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about your career on the field. We always like, and I find this interesting too, you know, what was your welcome to the NFL moment? You know, you get drafted, you go to the league, you're with the Vikings. What was that first, like, all right, I'm here, I've made it?
You know, when I was at Notre Dame, I didn't aspire to be a professional football player. I just sort of sort of took the easiest path. And it came along. And so I don't know that I had that aha moment. Other than showing up, I played in the college all-star game back in 1967. And the next night, I joined, or the next day, the game was in Chicago. The next day I was in Mankato, Minnesota at the Vikings. I think they had an inter-squad scrimmage. And being the new guy, I got to play in the entire scrimmage, not knowing anybody or anything. And so that was a Saturday night. Sunday morning, I was pretty sore.
I bet.
And pretty tired. So that was my welcome to the NFL.
So, you start with an inter-squad scrimmage, not knowing anything. You go throughout your career, you earn a gold jacket, but kind of the most significant thing that you get awarded when you're a member of the Hall of Fame is that bronze bust. So we already saw the archive. So we thought, well, we're in a museum. We might as well go to our Hall of Fame gallery to see that bronze bust of Alan Page. So we've got Jerry Shockey, the Director of Youth and Education, in our Hall of Fame gallery right now in front of that bronze bust. And he's going to talk a little bit about why you have the jacket and why you have that bronze bust. So Jerry, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jake. And Alan, good to see you again. I've been fortunate enough to work with Mr. Page on a couple of different occasions, him and his wife doing programs here in Canton, Ohio. So it's good to see you. I'm a 23-year veteran here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I love what I get to do.
Good to see you, Jerry.
Yep. Good to see you, my friend. And so I'm here in the Hall of Fame gallery. I mean, think about this just for a second. I know the program's at its conclusion now, but think about this just for a second. Who you got to speak with here today is there have been about 300 million people that have played the game of football at all levels throughout its history. Okay. There have been 5 million that have played at the collegiate level. There have been about 30,000 that have been paid to play, coach, or officiate the game in the professional level. And there are only 362 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that gives you an idea of just how elite this company is here. Alan Page and he's Jack Ham above, and Fred Bolitnikoff, and all these other great players as part of this class of 1988. But for me, it's not just the bronze bust. For me, getting to know Alan, and especially learning about the Page Education Foundation. Now we're just hearing him just share earlier that over 8,000 scholarships have been given to young people. And, I know we can share the stories like, man, the locker room story or a great moment in the NFL or something like that. But I'm curious because I love hearing those stories of what was that scholarship or that student of someone that had an impact on your life that they said, because for me in my life, and as I help people, there's nothing better to hear than someone say, and we don't do it for this reason, but it encourages us to say, hey, because of what you did, you helped change my life. So do you have that story of a student of someone that was that just really touched your life in a way, maybe more so than some of the others?
Well, when I was growing up, the people that impacted me were parents and family. As I got to law school, that's when I really became a student. I sort of got by before that, but I got to law school, I fell in love with learning. And there were any number of people who I would sit down with and talk through and work through these complex, at least seemingly complex, legal concepts. And I don't know that there was any one particular, but that's where it affected me. And then now that you mentioned the Page Education Foundation, we have those 8,000 plus current and former Page scholars. And on a daily basis, I run into them, both here and in other places. And to see the lives that they have grown into and the impact that they have had. And they're literally 8,000 of them. And they're the ones that inspire me. They're the ones that keep me going. Those scholars and the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at Justice Page Middle School, and the pre-K through 5th graders at Justice Allen Page Elementary School. They're the ones that inspire me because they've got all that energy and possibility for the future. And to see that play itself out, that's what gets me going. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Well, and good to see you, my friend, and tell your wife I said hello, and thank you for everything you do for the Hall of Fame. Thank you for everything you do for us. Jake, I'm going to send it back to you.
Well, thank you, Jerry. And I would just say to all of those listening, if you ever have the opportunity to stand where he's standing in that museum, take advantage of it, because as wonderful as that looks, to be there is almost impossible to describe, because the energy, the sense of history, the sense of being in a place where there is, I mean, there's so much greatness there, and so much greatness represented that it's almost, I mean, it's awe-inspiring.
For sure. We don't know, it's kind of like this, but you almost feel like you're walking in the church. The room kind of gets quiet, and the lights are kind of dimmed down, and you kind of there's a hush literally over that room when you walk through it.
I guess that's what I was trying to capture. I mean, it is like being in hallowed ground.
And I can personally say, getting to walk into that building 5 days out of the week, that it is truly true, and it's exactly like that, for sure.
I mean, you can, it's palpable. You can feel it. You can feel there's something special going on.
All right, this is gonna be my last question here today, and then we'll wrap up. So first and foremost, before we ask, I want to thank you so much. This has been awesome to hear all the great words of wisdom that you have. And as much as all the students watching today take something away, I've mentally been taking notes, and this is to take back and use in my career as well. So with that being said, one last piece of advice. What is that one thing top of mind that you would want all the students here watching, everybody who watches this program, whether it's now, 6 months, 12 months from now, what is that one piece of advice you want them to walk away with?
I would say be honest, respect other people, treat people as you would be treated, take what you do seriously, don't take yourself too seriously.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Networks, featuring class of 1988 member Alan Page. Let's give Mr. Page a round of applause here. Again, as everybody has already echoed, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, everything you've done for people's lives off the field, and truly everything you do for the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the kind words. I'm lucky. I find myself in a position to be able to do what I can to make the world better. And football has given me that opportunity. And I couldn't ask for more.
All right. So for myself, for Mr. Page, and everybody at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we want to thank you so much for tuning in today and being a part of our Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Networks. Make sure you pay attention to that email inbox, as we're going to have a bunch more of these coming up throughout the remainder of this year, as well as we flip over to 2023.